Steady up, fellas. I got orders coming.
I don't know, Hodges. It's not too easy to cook anything meaningful in 3 minutes. There's a 3-minute countdown timer going. Best I could do is like instant coffee. Pop an espresso pod in the machine and be like, go, go. I mean, I wouldn't even have time to mix in the syrups and everything. That's right, kitchen stream. That aside, as exciting as Romeo's Kitchen is, let's pay attention to the game. Game 2 of the series. This is, of course, round 3, Brosras versus Jett. Jett, who I have followed relentlessly over the last couple weeks. I have just, every single time I've seen him in auto match, I have watched the game. I know everything about his playstyle. I know everything he's going to do. Like the back of my hand. Except, of course, he totally flipped it on me and did something I wasn't expecting. And that, by all accounts, didn't even make that much sense in Game 1, but maybe he'll recover a little bit and have a slightly better performance here in Game 2, where he's going to be Axis against Brosras, who I know nothing about, really, except for that he has been shredding auto match. He's top 3 as every single faction, and clearly is a force to be reckoned with, dominating Jett hard in Game 1. Let's see if he can do the same thing as allies. He's going to be playing as U.S. forces against Jett's Oberkommando West. We've got Recon, we've got Rifle, and we've got Infantry companies against Jett's Spec Ops, Scavenge, and Firestorm. And we haven't seen Firestorm yet today, but it's very powerful. Would not be surprised to see Firestorm, but we also see Spec Ops all the time, so I would not be very surprised to see that either. Both very powerful options. Brosras seems to use his infantry quite similar to how Dave. Identical capping order, in fact. Second rifle squad towards the central building. First rifle squad to this green cover position. And rear echelons back capping. But of course, when you send your rear echelons to back cap, you run the risk of running into stern piles and being forced to retreat early, and that's exactly what's happened here. Jett is going to get some good fuel harassment going as a result. Riflemen rotate from mid to the right side cutoff to try and prevent too much fuel going in. Jett retreats prematurely. He definitely could have won that engagement with Kubelwagen support. But his map control situation is fine, and he does force the retreat with another squad anyway. He's outnumbered on the right side, however. If he doesn't want that squad to get wiped, he'll have to make a somewhat early retreat, as he is retreating across a red cover road. And it looks like he should get away with only 1 or 2 model losses.
Our resource sector has been cut off from our supply chain. The Americans have cut our supply line.
Kubelwagen will be forced away left. Jett has taken control of the central house. Brosras riflemen looking a little bit isolated, and they're doing this stupid building dance. Quite frustrating when this happens. Instead of entering the building, they just freak out. I don't know. That bug is probably one of the most frustrating things about this patch. In fact, I hope that there's something in the pipeline to fix that. Lieutenant out for Brosras as well. Lieutenant surprisingly popular this patch against Oberkommando West. You would think people would go captain for the Stuart, but I don't know. I'm starting to think maybe I'm just doing it all wrong. Maybe it's all about Lieutenant patch. All of these tourney games would seem to suggest so. Not that going lieutenant has yielded very many wins. It yielded a win for Dave.
Build complete!
Not yield a win for Jett, so it's kind of a toss-up, I suppose.
Regimental HQ
But what we do know is that nobody has gone captain today.
Incoming fire! Hold, Grenadiers, back. Straight. The mobile command has been set. The static post is now in operation.
Jett, having seen his opponent go lieutenant, does the rational thing and goes mechanized instead of battle group. Gonna be getting a looks out quite soon. Once that comes out, the M20 will struggle. AC Brosras put down an M6 mine and try and bait the looks over it. He does have the 60 munitions, and really you want to try and get it down very quickly within that short window you have before the looks hits the field.
Target secured. Infantry attacking in force.
No commander selection yet from either player. M20 decrews and begins capturing the right side fuel. These wounded riflemen will stand no chance against these upgraded Volksgrenadiers on the left.
Lines have been cut. Americans are making a push. Incoming! American infantry! Enemy infantry! Hostile fire! Hostile fire!
This is a tournament, yes. You're just in time.
Battle promotion!
I think he will get the Faust off here.
Your orders!
Although that's of somewhat questionable value. The looks is not on the field yet, so it can't follow up. Thanks to that excruciatingly long build time. Most recent patch more than doubled the looks build time. For reasons most people probably don't fully understand, but I suppose it is what it is. Let's see if, despite that, the looks still serves as an effective counter to the U.S. Forces Lieutenant tier, which is very nearly the exact design of this, or at least purpose of this unit. To counter infantry and support weapon heavy, early aggressive builds that don't have any hard AT. Certainly off to a good start.
We've lost a squad of infantry. Infantry! Cut them down! Move ready! Prepare for counter-strike.
Looks forces retreats left and right. 20 also takes little damage. The rear echelon troops have swapped out for the vehicle crew so they can utilize their bazooka. But it's quite easy for a looks to kite a vehicle crew to death, especially with stern pile support. They don't accomplish much. Force back into the base. A 50 cal and Lieutenant are working the left side, however, and do manage to get some fuel income back, maybe. There's the looks on its way to counter. Forcing retreats all over the map, shepherding U.S. forces back into the base, keeping the map as red as possible. Picking up kills while he does it. Scuba Wagon does go down to the M20, finds it out of position. Looks is poised to get Vet 1 here. And we will see team weapon upgrades there from Brosras, and he equips these riflemen with a bazooka as well, giving him a little bit more anti-looks firepower here. The MG34 is going to suppress him, however, and he won't be able to get in close very easily. right now it's looking like Oberkommando West is quite strong versus U.S. forces on this map. Both players struggling as U.S. forces to beat their Oberkommando West counterpart. Or their Axis counterpart, I should say. It was actually Oster in game 1, but there were Pumas. For some reason, I guess subconsciously that made me think Oberkommando West, but maybe U.S. forces in general just struggles a little on this map. Light vehicles both putting heavy pressure on various squads, forcing them to retreat. M20 struggling to keep up with the Look's damage output. Both of them have roughly the same amount of kills and veterancy. Pops armor-piercing rounds, but it just doesn't really do anything against the Looks. It does a little, but it's not anything to get excited about.
Our resource sector has been cut off from our supply chain.
The Looks is gonna pull back for repairs. We will see battle group up in Jett's base. He has upgraded healing. 115 fuel in the bank after those various tech structures and upgrades, so he's not terribly far off from a tank of some kind, and he has, of course, got Spec Ops, so we may just see him go Command Panther. Quite likely, in fact. A lot of people who get these two tech structures go straight into Command Panther. Pretty powerful Oberkommando West build. M6 mine going down, but it looks like Jett will spot that going down, so Brosras cancels it at the last second. Good reaction time there. That almost completed full view of his opponent.
Battle damage estimates show the enemy at 300 points.
50 cal positions itself poorly and is forced away. Looks is up to Vet 2, forces the lieutenant off the left side fuel point. But a bazooka will keep it from chasing down the M20. Nice cutoff here by the stern pyos, they're completely unopposed. MG34 also being flanked right side. A lot of stuff happening on this battlefield, it's tough to keep track of it all, and it looks like the rifleman with the bazooka may actually get wiped on retreat. They overextended hard. Didn't catch it on camera, but they are dead. There was a rifle squad with a bazooka over here. That is Greyhound selected for Brosras. He's gone recon, just as Jett did. I'm curious if he'll have more success with it. The Looks is trying to finish off the M20, but it couldn't get close enough before the Greyhound shows up to chase him off. Greyhound actually doing very respectable damage against the Looks here, which was already damaged. In a little bit of danger. Greyhound is getting it down. All shots connecting and penetrating. The Volksgrenadiers have to go in for the Panzerfaust, but they're too late to save him. Jett will lose his Looks. Not a single shot seemed to miss or bounce. Greyhound looks like a pretty solid counter to the Looks there, arriving at around 15, 14, 13 minutes. He just dove at that Looks, and there was not a single shoe mine or Rakettenwerfer available to protect. Which is all it really would have taken to punish that aggression. Despite that, Tier 4 is up, so I guess we are not going to see a Command Panther. I guess we'll see, Obers. Possibly some regular Tier 4 units. Or maybe even a rush to King Tiger if he thinks he can survive. Greyhound spam is pretty tough to survive against without any tanks of your own.
Our supply lines have been cut. Americans are making a push. Combat unit ready.
Paratroopers dropped. This is the first time we've seen recon paratroopers today. That does cost 80 munitions, which makes them somewhat expensive to purchase and upgrade munitions-wise. But it'll give him an AT gun, and potentially give him either a very strong long-range infantry or pretty strong anti-tank infantry. Depending on which route he decides to go, the super-duper elite bazookas that they can purchase are actually quite good, even against medium tanks. I'm curious to see where that goes. Jett has pretty solid map control. He's got a huge victory point lead right now. So should he win this game, he will secure himself faction selection, but I'm actually very curious if he will choose Allies or Axis because he won as Axis. But I'm pretty confident he feels much more comfortable as Allies. So if he did win faction selection, I'm honestly not even sure what he would pick. I feel like going Allies would be shooting himself in the foot a little bit. But I know Axis is not his comfort zone.
The Americans have cut our supply line.
Vet 2 on the Greyhound, even though it's only got 2 kills. Got a lot of free vet on that looks. Finally, there's a Rakettenwerfer available to protect. Which he insta-retreats. Probably could have just pulled back to the tier 4. I don't think a retreat was really necessary. But it doesn't matter all that much. Greyhound pulls back to repair. Might see Brosras go for a takedown attempt on the tier 4, but it's in a very defensive position. That would not be easy to destroy. In fact, I don't even know if Brosras knows it's there. Still can't afford the LMG upgrade on his paratroopers. It looks like that is what he's going to try and get. G34 manages to get away with its veterancy very narrowly. A lot of U.S. infantry here. Jett is struggling to hold the line. Might want to pull back a little bit to the protection of his tier 4 structure to avoid bleeding too much manpower. He's got Obersoldaten on the field now. They are walking right into a Greyhound. There is a Rakettenwerfer available. Taking shots. Bundle grenade on the paratroopers connects quite nicely. Double Rakettenwerfer shot, maybe. Nope, that one's not quite in range. And the Greyhound pulls back to safety. And this one rotates to shoot at the M20. Neither light vehicle is successfully destroyed. I think Romeo is planning to upload to YouTube. I'll think about it. I'll think about it. It's kind of a lot of work. But, yeah, I probably should. I'm not recording these offline, but I might just do like a Twitch export or something if I have the time. We've seen some pretty miraculous rear echelon troop squad getaways today. Good map control for Brosras, but I just don't know if it's enough to take this game. The Major's only just now coming out. Panzer IV on its way for Jett. Gotta watch the VPs. Still has faction selection, but not for long. Has to keep that number above 331. Slows the drain, but hasn't stopped it. Double Greyhound making its way left. 2 Rakettenwerfers should be able to hold the line, and that Panzer IV will easily win in the engagement once it arrives. Cluster bombs being dropped in the center of these team weapons. This engagement could be critical. As long as Jett handles it correctly, it should be okay. Nothing really connects, so nicely dodged, and the Rakettenwerfers didn't even feel the need to retreat. Greyhounds are doing heavy damage to these Volksgrenadiers left, though, and they're about to retreat through LMG paratroopers, which will be painful. But it looks like the yellow cover of the cluster bombs, ironically, is actually going to protect them, and they'll make it to safety. The Panzer IV arrives, making its way to the left. The Greyhound absolutely must pull back to base as soon as possible in order to survive. An AT gun out, the one that Brosras dropped earlier. That should help to convince that Panzer IV back across the road. Yikes, this lag. Getting a lot of stutters. Sherman out for Brosras. The Panzer IV should have somewhat of an advantage against the Sherman. They're very comparable tanks. But of course, Brosras has not gone captain, so he can't easily purchase AT guns. He can only paradrop them, which is not cheap. Of course, he gets paratroopers as part of the bargain. Ober's in danger. Ober's in a lot of danger. AG shells on that Sherman, and they're clumped. It switches targets to the MG-34. It looks like the Ober should be able to get away. A lot of light vehicles right side, and there's no Rakettens over here, nor is the Panzer IV. It's rotating. Brosras is getting some pickups. Volksgrenadiers mid actually lose a Rakettenwerfer there. Unable to punish the steal. That's a pretty good pickup for Brosras, getting himself a little bit of free anti-tank, which he does need. Panzer IV finds a Greyhound out of position, but doesn't seem to be able to close the distance. Walks straight into a Rakettenwerfer. Shots are not connecting, so he's pulling back. Ober's available in this general vicinity. They don't have a very good line on anything. AT gun sets up. And there was a good chance of that Panzer IV going down right there. If that AT gun shot had connected, that Panzer IV could have been destroyed. Brosras exhibiting some cutting here and trying to take down Jett's tank, but not quite picking anything up, although he came very close. Sure, Jett is really wishing he had picked up more light vehicles in the mid-game, because now there's a Sherman available to support them. There's just so many targets. Brosras doesn't seem to leave anything in exposed positions for very long. Having lost one of his Rakettenwerfers, Jett is really playing from behind. 20 PodCap down. And he is right on the brink of losing victory point control. Well, at 335, 333, it looks like Brosras has secured himself faction selection. Should Jett take this game? finally, Jet finds a pickup. A Greyhound is destroyed, although the crew manages to get out just in time. And Jet has actually gone scavenge. I've never seen him go scavenge, but interesting choice. He's going to go scavenge and get an Ostwind. Very interesting, and even more interesting, perhaps, is Brosras' decision to go Scott of all units. Both of these players catching me a little off guard. Some slightly unconventional build decisions. I mean, I think Scavenge is a perfectly good doctrine. I just wasn't actually expecting him to pick it when he had the Command Panther option. And he's clumping right into Major Artillery and a Scott for some reason. But not being punished for it, fortunately for him. He may even manage to get his Reckenwerfer and a USFAT gun cleared here. The Sherman has to be careful. The Ostwind is hunting a Scott down, but it isn't able to get any damage done here. Double Faust might... Ooh, even actually just one Faust is enough to damage its engine. Where is the Panzer IV? He needs this Panzer IV to support in this engagement. He doesn't have the firepower to win without it. And he very realistically could take out both of these tanks with it. What is it doing? Unbelievable. He worked so hard for those opportunities, and then he doesn't have the one thing he needs to follow up on them. Nice plays by Jet regardless. Certainly inflicted some serious damage on his opponent, just nothing game-changing. But to be fair, he lost nothing either. In fact, the pop caps are looking somewhat more... Well, I don't know actually how they're looking. Once these tanks are recrewed, they'll probably go bounce back into Brosras' favor somewhat. Meanwhile, there is a USF mortar on the field with 13 kills in Vet 3. That thing has actually contributed quite a lot. I haven't really been following its performance, but it seems to have been a very useful tool for Brosras. He is able to make good use of that unit. Even now, putting heavy damage down on an MG-34. Although, just as I notice it, it is destroyed, so... or decrewed, rather. Buster bombs? Why? That was a waste of 110 munitions. I wonder if that was a misclick or something. Oof. Scott gets a huge hit right there, and the squad is wiped though. Ostwind moves to re-engage. Panzer IV is up to Vet 2. And definitely proving to be a good investment. Brosras is really struggling to keep AT weapons crewed. Ostwind going for a flank. Sherman at half, Panzer IV at half, at a quarter. One more shot, it could go down. He needs to get clear, and he does. Ostwind also pulling back for repairs. Lots of manpower bleed going down on Brosras. So many squads forced back into the base, forced to retreat. Jet, I suppose, isn't bleeding all that much, mostly because he just doesn't have very many squads left. He's leaning on his tanks heavily to carry him now. But it seems to be working. He's got the clock stopped at 296 and seems to have the momentum. I just don't know if he can keep it up. He's got 113 fuel in the bank. Will he go for further mediums, or is he going to go for a heavy? Not sure. There is a Jackson out now. I personally somewhat think a Jackson would have been a good fuel purchase, a good second fuel purchase, rather than the Scott. But the Scott was instrumental in wiping a Volksgrenadier squad, so... hard to say, I suppose. Jackson, big hit. Oh no, that Panzer IV is in big trouble. Big trouble, that's gonna go down. Wow, he just barely peeked into the fog of war, and before he knew it, his P4 just vanished into thin air. That hurts. I don't think he could afford to lose that. He may be in very serious trouble. At this point, I think Jett may have no choice but to fall back on Raketenwerfers. Maybe 2 or 3 Raketenwerfers until he can get out some kind of, I don't know. I don't know if there is any coming back from 91 to 59 pop cap. I don't think a King Tiger or a Panther on its own will be enough. I think it's gonna come down to the infantry game. Scavenger artillery being dropped in the back, trying to convince some of these riflemen to retreat. One of the squads falls low, but otherwise it doesn't really do all that much. The AT gun is also fine. The Jackson moves to engage against the Austrian and is largely uncountered. There's only one Raketenwerfer and is faced totally the wrong way. The Austrian pops Blitz and will escape. Nothing available to Faust, so he can't punish unless he gets the shot off, which he won't because LNG paratroopers on the flank clear the gun.
Gun crew has been lost. LEFG 18 howitzers stand ready to fire.
There is a disturbing lack of mines this game, especially when Jett has 240 munitions. There was an M20 on the field for an extremely long time. It didn't plant a single mine. It actually almost planted one, but then it stopped. There were a couple times when an Austrian and Panzer IV were diving a little too deep and they probably could have been punished, and that Jackson drove straight down the central road. Which against most players would just be suicide.
Our resource sector has been cut off from our supply chain.
235 fuel in the bank for Jett. He's going to need to start thinking about floating some manpower. Trying to get out a King Tiger. One thing Jett has going for him if he goes King Tiger is that Brosras is 2 pop caps to get himself a second Jackson. At least without decrewing vehicles and doing some fiddly micro type things.
Capture point is under attack. Taking fire! Standing by. Keep your heads down!
Nice shots from the Austrian there. There's a large anti-tank force making its way up the middle. I wonder if he's going to make a takedown attempt on the tier 4 here. If that goes down, it probably don't even matter at this point. He's probably not planning on making it for the tier 4 units. But he does wipe an MG34. Herman going hard. AT weapons have to take shots. King Tiger just won't be able to get here in time. The Greyhound died.
Light vehicle just got destroyed.
That helps. Jackson also taking shots. Tier 4's down. Suppose at worst that just means Jett can get no further overs, but definitely don't think he was even trying to go Panther or Panzer IV or anything like that. Although a Jagdpanther actually, or Jagdpanzer I should say, would not have been a bad idea. Scavenger artillery coming down. Might be through this head morpher. No lucky shells, unfortunately, and head morpher gets away clean. He wanted it, but he just couldn't get it. Sherman refuses to go down. Austin may have an opportunity against this Scott, actually, but there is a Jackson available to protect, so he shouldn't get too crazy. Doing heavy damage to those paratroopers, though. If he dives right here, that Austin will die. He's think carefully about what his objectives are here. He picks up the Scott, but is it worth it? There's no escape. Absolutely nothing he can do here.
Ready for further orders. Enemy movement! Under attack! Counter! Onyx Tiger ready.
King Tiger is out, and the Austrian, by some miracle, hasn't died yet, although it's not really doing anything other than just distracting Brosras. Eventually the Jackson does find it, and it's up to a King Tiger and a small force of elite Oberkommando West infantry to somehow salvage this game. The second Jackson is on the way. He probably hears it through the fog. Cluster bombs being dropped on an OKW blob. They're forced to retreat right here. It could be devastating. MG-34 cleared. King Tiger refuses to hit anything, but the MG-34s have suppressed all U.S. infantry. Finally, a King Tiger shot connects, but the Jackson's going to get away safely. There's a Sherman moving to flank. It's Vet 3 and picking up wipes. Oh, the King Tiger actually wiped the stern fire squad there. Soon, the King Tiger will be the last unit standing if this trend continues. Bundle grenade on the AT gun, but it doesn't... Oh, it's not bundle grenade. It's infiltration grenades, I guess. Didn't work. Jackson is super low. And up it goes in flames. That's the series. J for Jett surrenders, and Brosras wins 2-0. It looked like he wasn't going to be able to pull it out, but he did. So, faction advantages, supposed advantages on this map aside, it looks like Brosras is going to be advancing in the tournament. Well played, both players. GG. Let's take another look at the brackets.